Hey there everybody, it's Linnea here for LDRS Creative, and today I will once again be using the Pirouette pattern templates to create a card, but this time I'm going with a Christmas theme, and I'm going to be using that bonus template that's on the back of that Pirouette builder to create a Pirouette background. So I'm using the Peace and Joy Pirouette stamp set, but you can use any stamp set with small images. Today I'm just going to be building a background with the greenery in the Peace and Joy Pirouette stamp set, and I will be using 4 colors of green hybrid ink from LDRS Creative to do this. So to start, you want to pick out your stamps and put them in the quadrants, or the little squares within each quadrant here. So I'm starting with the top right quadrant. I picked out some stamps that are going to fit inside those squares. It's okay if the stamps are smaller than the squares, but you really don't want to have stamps that are larger than, unless you're okay with the elements in your background overlapping. Then I picked them up with my stamping tool, and I'm stamping onto a piece of cardstock that is cut to the same size as that Pirouette pattern template, so it's 6 1/4 by 6 1/4 inches, and I'm starting off my design here by stamping with olive branch. And all I'm going to do is stamp those images and turn my cardstock until I've completed all 4 turns for that quadrant. Then I'll remove those stamps and I'll choose stamps from the Pirouette pattern, or from the Peace and Joy Pirouette stamp set, and place those onto that Pirouette background. And this time I'm doing that top left quadrant. I'm using some 4-leaf hybrid ink from LDRS Creative, and again, stamping those images, turning my cardstock, stamping and turning until I have all 4 rotations done. I'm doing this again, and this time I'm using Evergreen, which is a really nice dark green ink. I love this one. I'm using all green inks to create a gorgeous holiday greenery background. Here we go again with this last quadrant. I placed all 4 of those stamps in the little box, and then I did realize that some of my images were going to overlap a little bit, so I just adjusted those slightly, which is totally okay to do. It's okay to have them overlapping if you want, but I wanted to have a background where my images weren't touching. And this time I'm stamping with Pistachios Aplenty, which is a gorgeous minty colored background or ink. I wanted to keep the focus on my pretty background, but still have something nice in the foreground. So I'm going to be using the layered poinsettia die set. This is a 7-piece die set where you're going to be able to layer up a poinsettia. So I have taken 2 shades of red cardstock. I'm cutting the background of the poinsettia from a light red, the layering piece from a dark red, and then I cut 3 colors of green for the leaf and 2 colors of brown for the center. The great thing about LDRS packaging is if you ever have any questions about which die lines up with a stamp or how a layering die lines up, there's a picture guide on the back of the packaging. So I found 2 reference points, and I'm going to line them up. Now I realized as I was gluing my layer on top that I kind of moved that a little bit, but here you can see how there are little points on the poinsettia that are going to line up. So once you layer this up once, you're going to be able to layer it up 100 times, and it'll become easier the more that you do it. The leaf I cut from 3 colors of green cardstock. I used the darkest in the background, then I used my lightest for the second layer, and then a medium for the third layer, and that just gives a lot of dimension. I love that there's 3 different pieces to layer onto this leaf to really create that look of layering. Then I'm going to also put those 2 brown pieces in the center of the poinsettia to complete that flower. Now I have my Pirouette background is still 6 1/4 by 6 1/4, so that's larger than I wanted. I'm grabbing the A2 stitched layered card toppers die set, and I'm going to use the second largest die, so that middle die there, and cut down my pattern paper background. I used the largest die in the A2 stitched layered card toppers to cut a piece of red cardstock that was going to match my poinsettia. And now I just need to stamp a sentiment to go onto my card. And this is actually from a separate stamp set. This is from the Potted Poinsettia stamp set. And I stamped this in olive branch ink. So this is going to perfectly match one of the greens that I used in my background. To assemble the card, I popped up that stamped piece with foam tape onto my red cardstock, and then I also used some foam tape behind my poinsettia and some foam tape behind my sentiment. So this card is quite thick, probably not one that I would mail unless I'm going to use a bubble mailer, but I love the look of Dimension and I really wanted this to have those multiple layers. It's worth paying some extra postage to create that dimension. I wanted to finish this card off with a bit more glam, so I'm taking some pearls that are kind of iridescent, shiny, and I'm adding those around my card, and I'm also adding some to the center of my poinsettia to bring a little bit more interest there. And then off camera, I also added some clear glitter onto the flower. This was an afterthought for me, so you'll see it in the photos, but you won't see it at the end of the video. But as I was putting the finishing touches on this card, I didn't think I would use the glitter, and then I ended up doing it. So you can see what this looks like without the glitter here, but in the photos you'll see the glitter. Thanks so much for joining me for this tutorial. I hope I'll see you again really soon. Bye!